In today's video, I will show you how to transform your car completely in Adobe After Effects. I've been seeing these really cool car edits on Instagram Reels, and I absolutely loved this particular effect, so I wanted to recreate it. If you want to follow along with this tutorial using the exact same video files as me, I will link those in the description below. Alright, so let's get started. So the first thing that I did is I went out at night and took a bunch of really nice cinematic shots using a gimbal. I had a lot of fun recording these videos, and I think the outcome is absolutely amazing. So the most important thing about making a video like this is going to be your music. Your music makes or breaks the video. The vibe has to be on point. But where do we find great music? Well, there's where today's video sponsor comes in really handy, artlist.io. You might have already heard of them, but not only is it today's video sponsor, it is also my preferred place to look for amazing music and also amazing sound effects from a high production value. In my opinion, these are the best. They offer an amazing subscription package where you can download any song that you want. Same goes for the sound effects, which they also offer. They have a tab where you can search for music or sound effects, and these sound effects are from another level, literally. I use their sound effects all the time to create my videos because I just feel that there is a lot more depth to them. So to find my song, all I did was went to artlist.io, go over to the music tab, and then right here you can choose your genre, mood, or video theme. I went to genre and I wanted something electronic. And then you can browse all their music. I went for this song right here. And then once you're happy, you can click download right here, choose MP3 or WAV. And we're done. They didn't ask me to say this, but yeah, I'm a big fan, and so should you be if you're creating videos. So definitely check them out with the link in the description below, and let's get back to the video. So for these tutorial files, here is what I have prepared. We can select all of those and drag them in Adobe After Effects. As you can see, I have one video file of my car in vertical mode, and then I have the still frame from my previous car, the Mercedes. Then apart from that, we have this frame of the car, and we have the engine, which we will also want because we want to be able to look inside of the car afterwards. The more details you're going to be adding in this, the more realistic it's going to be looking. Alright, so what I will do is drag my video footage into a new composition, and then I will right click on my composition and go to composition settings. Check how long your composition is. I'm going for 5 seconds, and I'm going to click main. I'm going to rename it to main and then click OK. So this is going to be my start frame. I'm going to offset it, and then I'm going to duplicate it by holding Ctrl and pressing D, and then right click, time, freeze frame. So we also make this into an image. So I'm going to bring it forward a little bit, then I'm going to hit Ctrl-Shift-D, split the layer, and delete this part. So now we have just this part, and then it starts with our video afterwards. So we have the image and then the video. And so for the Mercedes, we're also going to bring this into our scene. And as you can see, it's a little bit too big, and that's because we want to be able to animate it. So what I will do is at 1 second, I will go and press S on the keyboard and create a keyframe by clicking on the stopwatch here. I'm going at the beginning of my frame and press V on the keyboard to get your selection tool, and then hold Shift while making this smaller, and now we can see that we have a smaller version, so we have a little zoom in. As you can see, the top and bottom are cut off because actually my proportions weren't perfect in Photoshop, but we can simply fix this with adding a motion tile to this. So you can go over to effects and presets, or you can use console effects, which is a free plugin from Video Copilot, by holding Ctrl and pressing spacebar. This is something you will have to install separately, but you can find it also over here. This is just a faster way of doing it. So I'm going to search for motion tile and hit enter. Then I'm going to click on mirror the edges, and for the output height, we're going to increase this until we covered the bottom and the top here. So now we have a nice zoom in until we see the Mercedes. Maybe we want this to happen a little bit faster, so you can bring in this keyframe and then right click keyframe assistance, and go to easy ease. So this is going to soften the stop at the end, but we want to jump into that by going into the graph editor while having this selected. And now you will see this graph. If you don't see this, just make sure that you select scale, select the last keyframe, and bring in this point right here. So now it's going to have a slower stop curve. So now we will have something like this. If we're going to enable motion blur, we should see some motion blur in the zoom, and it's going to help sell the effect a little bit more. So how are we going to transform this car now into the other one? We basically need to mask out each individual part so we can then animate it separately. This is a little bit time consuming, but it's totally worth it because you basically sell the effect of something being 3D, or at least that's the effect the audience receives, but it's completely made in Adobe After Effects, which is a 2.5D software. So what I will do is go over here at the moment where the scale is at 100%, and I'm also going to duplicate this layer by holding Ctrl and pressing D, and then just trimming it to that point. I'm going to press S on the keyboard to remove any keyframes for the scale because we do not need those anymore. And if you want, you can also just take away the part here behind the first zoom. So we have the zoom, then it cuts into the still of that, then we have the still of the Mustang, and then we have the animation. I'm also going to cut it right here for now, so we can clearly see what is going on. And we can layer these accordingly, so we have a nice step timeline. Find a frame of your Mercedes at 100 scale and just the photo, and go for composition, save frame as, file. Go again back to main. Take a frame of the Mustang, save frame, file. And that you want to export a Photoshop document. So we're going to export them to a new folder. Make sure that you have a folder for these Photoshop documents, and I'm going to render these out. Then I will import these two files in Photoshop, and what I will do is go and pick my lasso tool, make a rough selection around the car, and then this little window should pop up. So click Generative Fill, and then just click Generate without filling anything in this prompt. And this will remove the car and make an AI generated background that looks pretty solid to me. So that's going to be the perfect way to remove or transform our car and remove it from the shot. So once you have this result, just hit Ctrl S to save, and then we can close this document and do the same thing for the Mustang. All right, so I'm also going to hit Ctrl S, save this, and then close Photoshop. In After Effects, I'm going to drag these two video files now and drag them into my in folder that I created to keep everything organized. Then go back to your main comp and then drag in the Mustang right here. Trim the rear and make it fit. And then the same for the Mercedes. And place that right over here. So I'm going to drag these below where you can actually see the visible car, because first we need to remove the car, but now we know if we remove the Mercedes, we have an empty background plate, which is perfect. So now comes the fun part where we will need to isolate every single part of the car. So that's going to be through masking. We're going to mask every single part of the car and then animate it accordingly. So what I will do is click on the Mercedes and then just duplicate it, and then go into the pen tool, zoom in, and start masking out like the bumper, for example. So the bumper, I can see through the seams, starts here. Okay, and then rename that layer to bumper. We can also say Merc bump, so we know it's the Mercedes. We can duplicate it and then press M on the keyboard, remove the mask, and this time select something else, for example, this side panel. And just repeat this process until you've done the entire car. So there we have it. We have isolated everything for the Mercedes, and so as you can see, we have these bunch of layers actually. So I'm going to recolor them to something else. And then we can go through each of them. And I like to place the anchor point here to somewhat the center of that object. Okay. So now what we want to do is select all of these, press P on the keyboard and create a keyframe. If you want, you can turn these into 3D layers as well, so you can make them float around in 3D space. And then move a few frames forward and just offset them slightly. Of course, from the moment that we have these files here, we're going to press U on the keyboard and just make sure that we zoom in, like we want to start it right away. So what we want to do is have the original clip here of our Mercedes just one frame long. And so we have it in full, and then it breaks apart, and we can see the background through it because we have our clean plate right here. The only problem here is that we didn't select our hood. So we have to duplicate it one more time and delete the mask and create also a hood for this. Right, so that looks cool. We will go forward a few frames, and now what I want to do is just take him out of the frame. And so now what I want to do is select all of these keyframes, right click, keyframe assistance, and easy ease. Go into the graph editor and select the middle keyframe, zoom in a little bit and make this a little bit smoother by pulling out these handles right here. So it comes to a slower stop, it stays a little bit longer in that position, and then it goes out of frame. And so of course from here you can do whatever you want, and if you want you can also select all of these keyframes and just offset them a little bit. So that looks really cool. The only problem here is that we don't see anything on the inside. So what we need to do now is bring in our frame and bring it right here. I'm also going to trim it in the beginning and just make sure it starts after we have the complete frame here of our Mercedes and the opening starts. Now we should start seeing a frame. I'm also going to resize this frame, make it a little bit bigger, place it correctly, or at least what I think is correct. And so now we can also add an exposure to this, lower the exposure a little bit to make it blend a little bit better with our footage, and something like this. So now if it opens, you will see this frame is still there. Now the frame is pretty still, so what I will do is I'm going to click on the frame, press P on the keyboard, click on position and rotation, make a keyframe for those, press U on the keyboard to reveal those keyframes in our timeline, and then move forward, and then bring it up, then press W and rotate it just slightly so the front comes off a little bit. And then I'm going to copy these first keyframes, so Control C, and then right here at the end, I want to paste them back. And then for the middle one, right click, keyframe, easy ease. Same thing goes for the engine. Let's bring that in here. Make it the correct length. I'm also going to right click, transform, flip horizontal. So it's the other way around. And now we can place it into the right spot here. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. And there we go. We're going to bring it into our car here. I'm also going to press T on the keyboard and add a tint and a curves. Just to match the colors a little bit better, I'm going to set the tint to 50% because we have a very desaturated V-Log scene. And I'm also going to just eyeball, for now, the black tones and the white tones. And so what we will do for the engine here is we're going to parent it by choosing this pick whip and parent it to the frame. So now it actually follows along with whatever the frame movement is doing. One more thing we want to do is create a new solid layer. This is going to be our engine mask. Also make sure it's on top of that and also at the same length. And now I'm going to press F4 on the keyboard and just drag this to the engine mask. So we only see whatever the engine mask is seeing. And we're going to create a new mask here. And I'm just going to draw here around the front part of the frame. I'm going to close this and then I'm going to press F on the keyboard and just set this mask to subtract with a feather of 3 pixels. So now the engine is sitting inside of the frame. I'm going to press P on the keyboard and create a keyframe for the position of the engine. And like right here, I want to bring this keyframe to the beginning, and then right here, I want the engine to kind of come out. And then once it goes back on the floor, it goes back in. One problem though is that we didn't parent our engine mask. So go to the position where it matches our frame and also parent this to the frame. And now you should see that it should also follow along with the frame. So this is looking all right. Let's do a little preview. I do think that everything disappears a little bit too quickly, so I will select all of my last keyframes here for my Mercedes and then just offset them a little bit more to take a little bit longer for the animation. And by the way, if you end up creating something using my tutorial, definitely do tag me on any social media at Ignace Aleya. Really curious what you guys can come up with. By the way, if you want to improve the speed of your workflow, then it's time to look into an NVMe card. We already got this card right here from Corsair. It's a 4TB NVMe card and it improves our workflow drastically. It's also extremely fast for your softwares to load up, and also all the files that you're using, like big video files, are being written and read much faster than before. So that means while you're working, you will have way less lag and way less problems. If you want to check out more, check out the link in the description below. So this looks really cool, but then on this position, I want to trim everything out. So what I will do is just make this a little bit shorter because that's where everything should disappear. Same goes for this. I'm also going to trim all of these, just remove these. And there we go. So now we have the Mustang. I'm going to parent that to that place. One thing that I want to do is the background of the Mustang. I want to make it appear faster because we're actually doing a transition of our background. So what I will do is bring this lower, just below the frame and the engine. And I'm going to extend this a little bit. So now we can, for example, see that the Mercedes is transitioning in this scene. And what we can do is add, for example, a gradient wipe, set the softness to 50. Set a keyframe for 0% right here at the beginning of our Mustang scene. And then like right here, set it to 100. So now we should have a transition of our background while our Mercedes is taking apart. And then right here, we should have other pieces fly in and make up our Mustang right here. So now what I will do is select this part of my Mustang. This should be the frozen part. This is our image. So what I will do is duplicate it and start my same process that I did with the Mercedes. Once you think you've done everything, select everything and give it its own color. Then I'm going to click here, go to the pen behind tool and place everything according to you in its own center point. All right, so now I'm going to select all of these files and now I'm going to move a little bit in time and I'm going to press P on the keyboard. And before I do that, I'm actually going to turn them into a 3D layer by toggling the switches of pressing F4 and clicking here. Then I'm going to press P on the keyboard to reveal the position attribute, and then I'm going to create a new keyframe for the position. Go to the beginning now of your timeline, or actually a few frames before the finish. And now we're going to offset everything just slightly. And the reason you're seeing the Mustang is because you actually have the video clip, which should start right here. And then go to the beginning here and just make them fly off frame. Again, same thing for these clips, for these keyframes, I'm going to make it easy ease. Maybe bring these back a little bit more, and there we go. And then select all of these video clips. Make sure that we have all of them at the same place. Select all of them, graph editor, select this here, smooth it out a little bit. I'm holding Alt and scroll to zoom in. And there we go, we made it a little bit smoother. This looks better. And now we can also offset these parts. And create something like this. Press Ctrl A and then U to close everything so we have a clean timeline. And let's do a quick preview. So the only problem here is that we do not see our frame yet. So we're going to press U on the keyboard and just make this longer. And I'm also going to change the animation to start right here, hold Alt and drag it out. So it's appearing a little bit slower, but now the frame actually animates through the two cars, which is exactly what we wanted. So press U on the keyboard and also extend the mask here and extend the engine part and do the same thing, Alt, drag these out while these are all selected. And now you should have the full animation here. And so once your car is made, looks really cool. I'm just going to select all of these here, Ctrl-Shift-D and delete, and then bring in the clip a little bit faster. So it's instantly after it's made, it starts to animate. And then just for like a last piece of the cherry on the pie, I'm going to right click, time, enable time remapping. And like right here, I'm going to just drag this last keyframe all the way over and then make it shorter, which basically speeds up the entire process. So now it's going to make it and then boom, shoot to the back. So I'm going to select both of these keyframes, press F9 or right click, keyframe assistance, easy ease, and go into the graph editor and then just do something like this. And let's preview. And if you want, you can copy this first keyframe, place it right here and then extend it. And now it's going to do a really fun reverse here. So zoom out, zoom in. So this a little extra. Okay, so that looks really cool. Of course, play around with the timing of everything. That's going to be fiddling around to find a perfect fit. From here, what you can also do once it's fully built, you can create a new adjustment layer. And on this adjustment layer, we're going to add, we're going to rename this to Shake. And we're going to add the Quick Shake preset, which is a preset that we make available on our website. And I'm going to just reset the center and the anchor point, or yeah, also feel free to make your own screen shake. This is just a quick preset that adds in some screen shake here. I'm going to increase that number to something like 120. So we have a lot of shake. And I'm also going to uncheck use composition shutter and set the shutter angle to 180. So now if we're going to play this, it's going to do a nice shake. But one more thing that I do want to add here is an exposure tag. So once it's fully installed, I want to brighten up my scene a little bit, click on this keyframe and then set 0 to one keyframe before that. So we can see it right here, 0, and then we have a value. And then right here at the same place where the shake is ending, we're going to set it back to 0 with right clicking, easy ease, and maybe also smoothen this part out. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give this video a like. Also be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you stay notified when I upload new videos. Apart from that, I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, create epic videos.